What is the difference between being punk and being a punk?
We are here to talk some punk rock, some music, comics,
Punk culture, DIY shit, anything we want to talk about.
That's what fascinates me. Give me everything. Absolutely everything.
I find that music and comics have always been intertwined.
Muckspout.
Chicks dig it. Don't worry.
What up?
What is going on, everybody? We're look at Eric making himself a drink already. We're gonna have a good time. Usually I should be the guest, but today we turn that shit all around because we're punk as fuck. And I'm gonna take over and I'm gonna interview these pieces of shit to find out why the hell they're doing this and why together.
Meanwhile, I'm trying to read Eric's hat. And okay.
So my Canadian friend Chuck Pineau.
Yeah, I'm so offended, dude. Hat. Like, trigger warning, man.
My mom actually brought that and a fanny pack for me, and I was like, well, I know he likes to wear those hats, so I'll give him the hat. I know he'd appreciate it because it's a Tim Hortons thing, and I kept the fanny pack.
Can't get more punk than that. I was just looking at it real quick, thinking he had a Justin Bieber hat on, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" So I just had to check in.
It's both. This is the funniest thing. It's like for you because you're American, wearing a Tim Hortons toque is punk rock, but for me, that would be like me wearing a Nike hat. You know what I mean? Like
worse. Like a Gap hat.
Right. Yeah.
Dude.
Like, it's actually the only genre that like you could wear a Justin Bieber hat and be like, this is punk rock, because like who gives a fuck? Look what I'm doing. Yeah. But like you couldn't be like, this is so rap, you know, like it doesn't work like that.
It would be rap if the tags were still on and the sticker and everything. Then it would be rap. I hate when they do that, by the way. And that's not anything against rappers or anything, but I hate that, like, we have to keep it as pristine and flat with the sticker on and the tag on. I'm like, fuck off. You walking around with a receipt, too? Shut the fuck up. It's just... things are made to be worn and worn down. That's
one hell of a hot
that's going to be the next fashion statement, is everybody puts receipts in their hat with, like, the price tag circle.
Yeah. I actually, in my hat, I have a picture of when I stole it. It's just a picture of me going and taking it off a shelf.
I've actually got the ad from the newspaper I shoved in the back just so you can see where I got it on sale at. It's a Midwest thing, I think, though.
All right,
I hand out coupons at the grocery store. I'm gangster as fuck.
So this is the takeover. I am officially fucking taken over. And the whole idea was so that everybody, all the fans out there, could get to know you guys better. I know Eric and Ben quite well, which means I get to jump into some fun questions with those two. And John, I'm excited to know you as well as I know them, so I may play dirty with you too, homie.
All right.
But let's throw in a couple softballs just to make you think you have a shot today and that this isn't going to hurt. So we know how this started. Let's be honest, people. If you've ever worked with Eric Cockrell, this is how a project happens. He comes up with a crazy fucking idea, and he says, ooh, who's the perfect person I can work with on that? So that way I don't have to do everything, which I think is very smart, by the way. Mm-hmm. And he'll track someone down, let's say for something like Essence House, or for this, or for Strange Tales Weekly. Like, there's a fucking list of things. He tracks down his team, brings them in, and then they make out a quality product. So we already know how this started. He came up with a crazy fucking idea, and he went, who's going to work well? John and Ben. So here's something I'm going to try. John and Ben, in your own words, why do you think you were chosen for this? This is when we say fuck humble. Why did Eric come to you? John, let's start with you, bud.
All right. Basically, I met Eric promoting Blister when I was back on Strange Kids Club when I was writing for that website. And so we just kind of shot the shit over the years about punk bands and stuff like that. And I'd shoot him a bunch of recommendations. And I think he knew that our tastes in music and everything overlapped pretty well. And like, I was very serious about like my being a weird music dude. So I guess being a weird music dude, that's probably my main thing. And then he obviously knew I liked comics and where that overlap with music happened. So we like all those weird little comics. Like we had talked about Matt Garvey's Chunks that was about a touring punk band in the UK. And so I think we just complemented each other's styles pretty well overall. And I'm a giant dork, so I think I had, enough.
Knowing John has made my use of Kickstarter expensive. He's always shot me Kickstarters every time there's something music and comic related, and they're always awesome. So I always end up backing them. And
I try not to recommend something unless I know it's got some merit. So
yeah.
I try to tailor it to people's wants and needs. So
one such was just recently we interviewed the guys from the Geezer comic, Britpop comic.
I love that comic.
Yeah, and what's funny? We were at Barnes and Noble up in Rockford, Illinois this weekend, and I saw the new Liam Gallagher album dropped, and I didn't know anything about it. Yeah. But I've been on like this Britpop kick ever since that Kickstarter dropped a little over a month ago. And so I had to snag it like right there. I was like, I got to check this out.
I have a question for you guys. Have you heard about AISIS?
Yes, I just did. Just the other day I read the article about that.
Okay. I find this interesting. I'm very interested to see how music evolves now with this. So I don't know if you guys heard about this. Basically, someone created an AI version of Oasis.
Oh yeah, I think I did hear a little bit.
And like they basically advertised it as like, since Liam Gallagher won't ever get off his ass and finally finish this damn thing, we're gonna make our own. And I haven't heard it yet.
Yeah, I haven't. Have you? No? I read about it right before I went out of town, and I haven't been able to check it out.
Yeah, you know what though? Like the name though threw me off because you said AISIS, and I was like,
I know, right?
Is that like
as soon as I said it, I was like, ooh.
Yeah. It sounds like the Canadian wing of ISIS, but it should be ISIS A. But yeah, like what the fuck? It's just a bunch of guys like I don't know out in the desert oppressing people with fucking Crown Royal and Tim Hortons, you know.
Keep trying to freeze the Oases so that we can play hockey on them. It never works.
That's a nice recruiting strategy, actually. That's a little better than ISIS's.
Dude.
Yeah.
So, Ben, why were you added to this?
That's a good question. Well, I interviewed Eric on his own podcast. Was that last year or year before? Year before.
It was during the Blister Kickstarter. You did a takeover.
That's right.
And just broadcasted through my channels.
Yeah. Which was speaking of innovative ways to be lazy, that was my move. I don't need a podcast. I'll just use other people's podcasts.
Yeah, he did a series of them at that time. He put out a call and said, "Hey, who can I come on their own show and interview?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's perfect." Like knowing Ben's background and stuff, I like talking Blister was going to be real easy. So.
Yeah, and I think over that conversation we learned that like we had a lot in common musically and comic book wise, and just philosophically. I think we both approach things in a similar way, and we have like the same openness to shit. Yeah. So when you mentioned the podcast, I think I was like, that's great. How often can I be on?
If I recall, Ben was actually looking at doing a podcast around that time himself. So
yes,
it's been like a way for him to get his feet wet on his own thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Eric, we get why you did this, and we have a better idea why you picked these two. Is there another reason? Like, is there something else?
Yeah, they're actually both completely wrong. No, I'm just kidding.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Ben's the looker, and
like me and John had started talking at one point, and we've the three of us have talked since then about doing like a anthology comic. And well, you know about that one too, Chuck. So me and John had spoken. I think it started out as like a comment that I made in a thread on something else, and we started talking behind the scenes about that, and then that dropped off a bit. But then the podcast thing came up, and I knew he had the music journalism and in his background, and we both definitely shared the music and comics thing. And yeah, so basically I went down the same way they said. Like they nailed it.
Yeah. Very cool. I know there was another question, but I'm not remembering it right this second because you took me somewhere I wasn't expecting. Which I like. What are you drinking today, by the way?
I found this. I found this at the store the other day.
Maple bacon moonshine.
Yeah,
interesting.
And I saw it. It was at the Hy-Vee Liquors in Madison, Wisconsin. So shout out to Hy-Vee. I was looking through everything and I saw maple bacon, and I had just been looking at maple, but I had just bought some really sweet whiskey, so I wasn't gonna jump on that. And then I started thinking more and more about the maple bacon, and I was with my girlfriend, and I was like, that's like drinking meat, kind of, right? Like it's meat flavored because it's bacon.
I can't honestly think of a better way to become an alcoholic than maple bacon alcohol.
It's really good. It's got this like really great smoky flavor to it, like up front, like it's, and you get all of the maple and the bacon, and it's good.
There actually is a better way to make yourself an alcoholic.
Oh, good.
Tell
the children.
Hurt yourself. I fucking threw out my back a couple years back, and I like almost had to. I went to a Comic-Con because I had a table there. I'd already spent several $100s on the table, so I had to go. And I didn't know that how well my back was working at that point. I brought a fucking wheelchair. It was that bad. Luckily I didn't have to use it, but it was fucking rough. I was in a lot of pain. And the Saturday night they did a drink and draw, and because I wasn't drawing, I was running around and grabbing all my artist friends' drinks, and they'd be like, grab yourself one, and dude, I got fucking wasted, and all of a sudden I'm running around and I feel no pain, and I was like, this is why alcoholics happen. Moment right now. I am having a great fucking time and I feel no pain and I want to be here until I'm better. So I get it. Like it was a fucked up reminder of like, and I did not drink much after that just because I was like, no, I got to get through this. I don't want to go that direction.
Yeah.
I had an upper respiratory infection the week before last, and that Monday and Tuesday, it was coming out of C2E2. That Monday and Tuesday, it was more like a cold. Maybe it was getting worse though, clearly. Then Wednesday, it was getting worse, but then it was better on Wednesday night because I was drinking. And so like, it was like the next day I was like, man, I'm so much worse. And my girlfriend was like, oh, you seem like you're okay yesterday. And I was like, that's because I was drunk. I felt really good.
Yeah, right?
Just didn't care.
Yeah, you're right. I should get drunk right now.
You should. Just get wasted. So, okay, we've got an overlapping punk comics show going on here. What for you guys? Why, like, there are so many fucking projects that you can do, so many fucking ideas for podcasts and all that kind of stuff. Why this one? Like, for each one of you, why does this one matter? So, like, because again, you could have picked a million different topics to talk about because you're all open into, like, you guys are all attached to a lot of different genres and ideals and hobbies and all sorts of stuff. So for the three of you, starting with Eric, let's start with Eric this time. Why this?
I mean, for me, it's like super on brand. Like,
yeah,
my comic is it's a comic and it's about punk music. And all of my upcoming projects like have all been very punk based. So like for me, it's just on brand. But I mean, I do things in other interests too. Like I did my Dulce comic about aliens and stuff, and I have my Strange Tales Weekly show that we're working on bringing back right now for season 2. So like I do get involved in things like this in my other genres too.
Very cool. John, what about you?
I had never even thought about doing a podcast before this. Honestly, Eric broached the subject with me, and I was actually terrified to come on because I was worried that I was going to be a stuttering fool throughout
Especially you were
everything.
worried when you found that video was involved.
Yeah, I was just like, oh Jesus, people are gonna see my double chins, and I don't fucking know. But no, it was.
You're looking at the 12 of mine, and by then you're good.
But you know, after a couple episodes, especially starting just talking to these guys, it's like, like we said, it's topics that I'm comfortable with. So this was a good way for me to kind of like just again dip my toes in and figure out if this is something I want to do. And these guys are super easy to talk to. So
yeah,
it's you know, it's just so many wonderful topics that we've dealt with so far. So
John, do you know why in the last 10 years beards have become so popular?
because of the double chins, right?
To any kind of chin. If you have a soft chin, if you whatever, you can hide it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, like I'm just saying, it's an option.
No, I had goatees and stuff going on for years. My problem is when everything turned white when it started growing out,
Yes.
it's like they're always like pointing out everywhere, and I just have no control of it. And
That
once
was-
it got
Whatever
to
do
that
you mean?
point-
Yeah,
exactly.
I can't
But
relate,
it
right?
was like there wasn't one that was in control, so I couldn't deal with it. So I'm like, well, it's either people see it or they don't, and
Yeah.
So I am comfortable with making fun of myself so that everybody else can do it with me. So
That's hilarious.
Well, for me, this is a week and a half of growth. So like, I just don't do it. Whatever the face hair thing is, it doesn't happen for me.
Yeah.
I'm Italian, so I got that gene that like if I don't shave for like a half an hour, I got a full fucking beard. So
Italian as well. I feel you, man.
yep.
So John, was that your whole answer?
Pretty much. I kind of meandered, but yeah, we can go to Ben. Kick it off to
Okay.
Ben.
Ben.
So I honestly consider comics to be the highest form, like literary art form, because the true saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words, I consider it to be a fact. And when you pair that with good pacing and a good storyteller, I think comics are the highest art form. Maybe even more than movies, in my opinion, just because it still requires imagination to create the movement, and there's a little more emotion involved, I think.
Yeah.
That isn't like coming out of the art. And then punk rock, I think, is the highest form of music because it's free as fuck. It has no limitations. It has no boundaries. As soon as you find a boundary, there's someone trying to kick that door in. So, yeah, I think those two things make it like something that I really want to talk about. You know,
That's funny. I hadn't thought of punk like that. As far as being, because my mind automatically would go to something like, I mean, a lot of people would say classical, but I don't think I'd agree with that. I'd say jazz, but for a lot of the same reasons, because it is very free and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't
but
think
yeah,
you'd
no.
have punk without jazz.
Yeah, I would. I wouldn't fight that one at all. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the coolest thing about punk is like it kind of takes from everything, but it still kind of retains its own identity. But
Yeah.
It's just like if it finds something good, it's like, yep, thank you. Yep, thank you.
So one thing I'm starting to feel, especially talking to you guys just in this conversation, John and Ben, punk is not necessarily your main musical focus. You know what I mean? Like you guys seem to, and that's not an attack on Eric, because I've done it before. But I'm like, all Eric does is listen. I know you love Bowie and all sorts of other great bands and stuff, but is it fair, Eric, to say that punk is your main genre, the one you love the most?
Even though I've worn a Justin Bieber hat and pulled up a Liam Gallagher album today, you're still gonna go there?
It's all a play.
I feel like you're working too hard to not appear punk, which makes you more punk.
Right
Yeah.
there.
Right?
Well, then I have Jawbreaker,
Okay.
Green Day.
All right. So if it's not punk, what is it?
No, you're right.
Yeah, I know I am. John and Ben, would you guys say is punk kind of like your main musical enjoyment, or is there? I assume from both of you, there's a lot.
Ben, why don't you go first this time?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a main one. I like music in all its forms.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me to dislike music. Even if it's bad, I can still kind of be like, oh, I see what they're trying to do, you know?
Yeah. I remember when we used to hang out a lot back in the day, we're talking about, like we were way into our metal phase and whatnot. We're talking so much about metal and stuff. And then out of nowhere, you brought up, oh my gosh, what's his name? I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. Taylor. Last name.
Muckins.
No. The last name is Taylor. Not like Jim Taylor, but
James Taylor?
James Taylor. That's it. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you started bringing up James Taylor, and I'm like, okay, all right, this kid knows a little bit more than I thought. And I was like, really interested in that.
Yeah, that's what I grew up on. I just think, like punk, I think of as like an attitude more than a genre of music.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what the podcast has become about.
Yeah.
Is more about like the fuck the rules kind of approach, which encompasses a particular aggressive style of music, but isn't limited to that. And most punk rockers don't listen to just punk rock, they're pulling from other shit too. Like the Clash were heavily influenced by ska and reggae.
It's funny, some of the bands that people call punk, and then you're like, I never really saw them that way. Like it took a long time before someone was like, Talking Heads, punk, and I was like, really?
Yeah, but if you follow the thread.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like it kind of comes from everywhere and still has its own cohesion to it. It's
part of the DNA.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
John, what about you? Whatever I asked.
I'd say I definitely, like, if you were to put my entire collection on shuffle, you'd probably hear a lot more punk than most, just because that's what I really enjoy a lot of the time. But I am just as likely to be, like a few songs in, you're going to hear some weird Americana shit and some, old school regular hard rock like AC/DC and stuff like that. And these guys know, but I grew up in a house where my parents were much older than most of the other kids, and they just didn't really listen to music. So I grew up in a house with no music really growing up. So when I started glomming onto my friends' styles and everything around 14 or 15, I just wanted to hear everything that was out there. And by the time I got to college, I went to UMass, and like all the kids were listening to everything. So I'm very open to any new music coming my way, and I just absolutely love finding new stuff, which is part of why I took on the role of finding new music to showcase on our social media every week and everything like that.
It's like John's superpower.
It's like I just really enjoy going out there and finding, people say, oh, there's, I don't want to listen to anything, thing but Pink Floyd, because, that's the only last good music that came out. Blah, 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 blah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, fucking come on. It's like I'm finding 30, 40 good new fucking bands a week for people. And I'm like, come on, people. If you can't find it, it's because you're not looking. And but again, it's like, to answer the real question, I'm just as likely to go to, when I first started dating my wife, we would go to Newport Folk Festival. And it was very mellow when we first started going, and got a little too crowded towards the end. But at the beginning, you could go between the different stages and tents and everything like that, and just find these kids that were up and coming and playing their hearts out. And, there were a ton of amazing string bands and bands with horns that were just like the Felice Brothers and Old Crow Medicine Show, and all sorts of amazing bands that were up and
coming.
Old Crow
Medicine Show are amazing. Yeah.
Yes, they're fantastic live. And we saw Chip Taylor, he wrote Wild Thing for the Trogs, and he was at that point paired up with this fiddle player from Texas called Kerry Rodriguez. And we walked into the tent. There were about 10 other people. They became like huge shortly after that. And she was just cute as a button and playing the fiddle. And she had never sang before she teamed up with him, and he just gave her a shot. And it's that kind of thing where I just have that excitement of finding anything fun and new. So yes, my focus is punk, but man, I will love the hell out of anything that's got some energy and fun behind it. So
I love that about actually all of you guys. I mean, obviously, John, you just mentioned it to me, but you guys have all, like, I'm an echo chamber kind of guy. I love what I love, and I enjoy that echo chamber, and sometimes new stuff kind of penetrates and gets in there, but I don't actively seek it. And it's guys like you three where I start to be able to add new stuff in there and be able to find new stuff. I mean, hell, C2E2 for me was a surprisingly musical weekend, because I went there and me, Eric, his girlfriend, and my wife, we hung out in his rock lounge, which is a great little room, and just listened to like oh my gosh, we were listening to so much new Goldfinger, fucking Weezer, just. Dude, it was so much fun. We had such a great time.
Jack Johnson, like, we did have some that weren't so cool. Yeah. And it was really great. And then it was funny because one night I went over to hang out with a good buddy of mine, one of my clients, Henri. And at our table at C2E2, it was me, Henri Compan, and this awesome dude, JT Malloy, who, upon meeting him and hearing his story, I was like, you don't know Eric Cockrell? How the fuck do you two know each other? Because they're both from like almost the same hometown, almost like just outside of Chicago. They both love all the same music. They're both into comics and make comics with a punk aspect to it. Like, it's fucking insane that they didn't. So I introduced them at the show. Isn't his company just like Punkin' Comics or something?
Punkin' Comics.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I'm like, how the fuck have you guys not met?
Chicago, it's wild.
So I introduced them, and then JT, we had to go meet Henri, but Henri ended up stopping partway. So we're waiting at Henri's house, and he's like, he knew that I'm a metal guy, and he's like, hey, do you want to listen to some hardcore? Kind of the mixture between metal and punk. And I was like, fuck yeah, let's go for it. So he started showing me all this shit, and I've since gone and like listened to some of it. Like, he had one band it's just a fucking hardcore band that does songs based on Arnold Schwarzenegger lines in movies.
That's wonderful.
Oh yeah. You're talking about what are they called? Oh, man.
I could find it on my YouTube if I got away, but yeah. Get to the Chopper is a song, and it's hilarious.
Get to the Chopper.
Yeah, dude. It's great.
And they're so good.
They're surprisingly good, yeah. So that's what I like about the three of you guys, is that you guys are tapping into this shit that, honestly, someone like me, and I think a lot of music fans similar to me, where it's just like, I love what I hear and I love what I kind of gravitate to, but I'm not searching for it. I don't think the average person is searching for new music. It's just there.
Yeah.
And we glom on to what we like.
Yep.
Yeah, I've always felt like I'm a bit of a, as my girlfriend puts it, a cat amongst dogs when it comes to this. Like, where I find most people have loyalty for the bands that they connected with when they were very young, but that desire to find new shit is not as common with music. Movies and video games and other kinds of art, maybe not so much, but I think comics is kind of in the same vein, right? Like, that's why I think the two of them go well together, because like having a punk rock ethos to comics and making indie comics is different than being into Marvel or DC. Yeah. Like, they're kind of the pop music of comic books, right? Not to say that they're bad, just like pop music has a lot of really interesting elements to it.
Yeah.
No, that actually brings up some really cool stuff, Ben. So, in the last 5 years, and I'm betting that you guys are similar, I found that you're finding these new things to get excited about, whether it's a new style of music, a new, like you were saying, indie comics and whatnot. For me, like, I'm a metalhead. I never hide that. But I found this kind of niche of international metal, where it's like metal bands from India and Japan and
You ever listen to The Who?
Oh, dude. Well, yeah. I've been enjoying Tibetan. Yeah, I've been enjoying the Who. Who's Bloody Wood? Alien Weaponry is ridiculous.
Alien Weaponry are amazing. Yeah,
They're ridiculous. 12-Foot Ninja is a great Australian band. Oh my gosh, dude! There's a song I'll tell you afterwards. It goes between fucking metal and jazz and just like piano jazz. It's fucking crazy. It's so much fun. And disco, actually. It has disco elements to it too. I was like, oh my gosh. So yeah. I'll show that to you later. 12-Foot Ninja, fucking great band. But that's something that I've gotten excited about. So for the three of you, my question is, what is something that you have discovered recently in the last couple of years that is something new for you that you got really excited about?
One thing for me was along those same lines was there was this band that reached out to me when I first put out the first Blister comic on Kickstarter, and the band's name was Crystal Axis, and they were from Kenya. They were a Kenyan punk band, and they were fucking killer. But it was just really cool because like they reached out to me. I don't think of any punk rock coming from Africa. It just isn't something that registers. I think of the UK and I think of America, and then there's a handful in other countries around America, I guess. But yeah,
well, I mean, you're Amerocentric and racist, so we get it. We understand.
Yeah, that limits me a little bit.
No, but that's like kind of in the same vein of what we're talking about with people sticking to their lane with music too. Is like we are kind of like limited by region. That's why I also think something like a podcast is really important, because what's happening in Chicago or what's happening in Wisconsin or what's happening in Texas or Toronto, it's different. We all have our own vibe. And like when we share and we cross-pollinate, that's when cool shit happens. Right? So like stuff like this actually makes music better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that too. Like when like I didn't purposely think about like, oh, this guy's on the East Coast, this guy's in Toronto, but like almost immediately that was a cool thing. Like I think it would be kind of cool if we had somebody like from the West Coast on board. Like there's so much like East Bay and all that. Like I think not you, Chuck.
One of the other people, you know the other people.
No, I don't. I stay in my own lane.
But I do think that was kind of cool. Even talking to like the guys from the UK a couple weeks ago, like it's fun talking to people from around the world. Like, and this is a cool opportunity for that.
Yeah. John, what about you?
I was just trying to think about that, and it's like I listen to so much to narrow it down to one thing is hard. It's I found like, so I'm gonna do a weird offbeat answer. Is I've started listening to a lot of like I have a passion towards not just punk but female fronted punk bands. I seem to have a fascination with. So there's a guy out of Australia that does a podcast, or it's an actual radio show that he just kind of uploads onto Mixcloud. It's called Mick Griffin, and it's called Queens of Noise with a Z. And I have found so many international female-fronted punk bands. It's all female-fronted bands, and it's just it's an amazing resource, and it makes you think of like, all right, so I get a ton of stuff. Obviously, he's local to Australia, so I get a shit ton of stuff from Sydney and all that kind of area, and as well as oddly a lot of Canadian bands and things like that. So I'm fascinated by that, like regional kind of things where you, like Eric was saying, maybe we should get somebody from the West Coast. It's interesting being in a bubble of wherever you're from and only getting those regional bands that you're kind of not stuck with because you love them, but it's nice opening that gate up to like a whole ton of brand new music. And he doesn't just do that show, he does a couple others, so I do get some more well-rounded recommendations as well. And like I've glommed onto a couple UK shows and things like that. So it makes you think, all right, there's some cool Canadian shows that you guys could be turning me on to with, new band recommendations and things like that. So I guess for me, that wasn't a very direct answer, but that's kind of how my radar works, is just kind of everywhere rather than more pointed, if that makes any sense.
No, that makes total sense. Yeah, there was an answer in there. You have to dig for it.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, the bands that I go see and things like that I'm excited about are unfortunately bands that I've probably seen more than I should have, like the Super Suckers and stuff like that.
Okay.
But I've only seen them recently in the last couple of years, so like a few of these bands, and like Super Suckers I saw with Jesse Dayton, and like, so anytime I get opening bands too, I like to check out everybody they've toured with, and I'm just love everything. So I'm gonna shut up.
Yeah. I just like, I ask questions like this because it's funny. Like my kid, I obviously started them on, and my kid's 21, but I started them on a lot of metal and whatnot. But we, of course, tried to keep it open to a lot of different styles. I remember when they were young and they came to me and they were like, I like Miley Cyrus. I was like, cool, go ahead. Let's, we'll get you a CD and you can enjoy that. Like keep you open to all sorts of stuff. I didn't want them to have the issue that I did, where I mostly was in a bubble. So I tried to keep that open to them, and they've become incredibly eclectic musically as far as their tastes are concerned. And they would come to me with these suggestions, and some of it was way too out there for me, and some they're in my rotation now. But I remember them coming to me at one point and going, the problem with being eclectic and being open to a lot of different types of music is that eventually you realize that, like, at some point you're just fucking listening to noise. Like, my kid was like, it was like I heard this thing where they're just like smacking on pots and pans and wailing, and I'm like, I'm not sure this is even fucking music. Like, am I just trying to get? So I guess
shut up, Dad.
Right? No, but they said that to me. That was the funny thing.
You don't understand.
Right? And they were just like you can get too eclectic. So is there something that you have enjoyed, I guess, John, that people would be like, what the fuck is that? Like, have you secretly downloaded some yodeling music or something?
I mean, it's funny you mentioned that, because I keep talking about, there's this band I grew up on called Cordelia's Dad. They were from around here, and they did this weird kind of traditional folk music mixed with then it'd end up with a punk finish to it. Well, the lead singer of that ended up at Newport Folk Festival one of the years we were there, and he was doing some kind of Appalachian throat singing. And I was just like, I don't even know what the fuck I'm listening to, but it was interesting. But okay, so that's not necessarily something I like. But I guess what I was thinking about while you were talking about that was, since I have such a wide variety, I used to at work put my collection on shuffle, and everybody would just kind of be forced to listen to whatever the fuck I was listening to. And I think the one that got me in trouble most often, that was the weirdest, was probably Mindless Self-Indulgence. Had some weird ass fucking tracks, and it seemed like every fucking time a manager would walk in the room, it was like fuckity fuck. And I'm like, sweet Jesus. Why can I never have my finger on the pause button when this person comes in? So I'd say they're probably one of those bands that, song to song, you never quite know what you're going to get. So
I literally just introduced Eric to them when I was over at his place.
I love those guys.
Oh, dude. We got to see them live, actually.
So did I.
Ben and I.
Yeah. Well, I saw them twice live.
Okay.
I saw them open for.
Go ahead. No, you're talking. Go.
It's fine. Tell the story.
What? He knows that there's a story with that show. I wasn't gonna tell it.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, no, we saw Mindless Self-Indulgence when they opened for System of a Down.
Okay.
And if you want to tell the other story, that's fine.
System of a Down is a great mosh pit.
Real mosh pit. You ever have that experience where you're like, I think I know what I'm talking about, and you have no fucking clue what you're talking about? That was me at my first mosh pit.
So
I was like,
we're going to
Radiohead show. I think I can handle a little mosh pit, buddy.
We were going to System of a Down, and I was like, dude, just be careful. Those mosh pits can get pretty rough. And he's like, I went to Radiohead. I think I'll be fine. I was like, holy shit, you're dead. You're fucking dead.
To be fair, now I've been to a lot of shows. A lot of intense music shows now. Radiohead was up there. It's in my top 5. That was a hell of a show. It was Molson Park, so it was like thousands of people, and I was near the front. So when they came out, it was like, it felt like equivalent to some large mosh pits that I've been in, but it wasn't as intense. It wasn't like the waves and the, like.
So it was the crunch, but not the movement so much.
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
okay, that's fair. But yeah, we had this thing, and I had said to him, look, I had said, feel free to step out now and then. You're gonna need a breather, and he's always. I think at the time you were like what, 16, 17?
I look fear in the eye, Chuck.
He was like 17. I was like, dude, you don't have to stay in there the whole time. I said, I'm going to go in for most of it. And then when they get to Ariel's, because Wendy and I love singing that song together, I'll hop out, sing that song with her, and then go back in again. And he was like, no, I'm going to be in the whole fucking time, the whole time. And I was like, all right, cool. Whatever. So we get in there, and we immediately are pushed aside, and we're enjoying, and I have no clue where he is. And then Ariel starts up, so I run back towards Wendy, and as I see fucking Giganto, fucking Ben, bob past me, away from Wendy, and I was like, okay. And so, we're standing there, and we're singing together, and they get to an interlude, like a little solo, and I turned over, and I was like, so, how's Ben? She's like, I wasn't supposed to tell you that he was here. I was like, you didn't. I fucking saw him leave. She's like, oh, yeah. He's all right. He just needed a rest. So I was like, I fucking told him. I mean, that's not fair. It was an awesome. Oh my. Well, and that's when we first saw MSI. But anyways, Ben, your story. Well, what new weird thing have you gotten into?
Well, I don't know. Listen to a lot of different shit. I've always had a love for. I've mentioned this a couple times on the podcast. Female. Like folk music, but I like to find artists that have bands that are like in a completely different direction, and then listen to their acoustic shit. Kind of in the same vein as like Alexis on Fire and City in Color, right?
Oh yeah, okay.
When you consider the contrast, it's interesting. So, I've gotten into
what would be the equivalent for our American viewers or our international viewers who might not know Alexis on Fire and City in Color.
I have a great one. Slipknot and Corey Taylor's solo shit.
And Stone Sour. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's very good. Okay, much better. All right.
Yeah. But there's a few like really amazing folk singers that I love their shit, but they also do some really heavy stuff. So Emma Ruth Rundle, she's in a band called she's like basically the brains behind the band Marriages, but she also does a bunch of feature shit with other musicians as well. She did a team up album with like some heavy like sludge metal band. It was really cool. Chelsea Wolf's another one. She does a lot of solo shit, but she also did an album with Converge. I don't know if you guys listen to Converge, but they're like one of the heaviest bands I've ever listened to in my life. They're insane. And she did an album with them called Blood Moon. It was incredible. I think that was like a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. So that kind of shit. I'm getting into like contrasting music coming from the same person. That's kind of my kick right now.
That's awesome. So, okay, we've talked a lot about music. Now, because it is punk and comics, for you, and it can be punk or comics, whichever you want, or a mixture. if there was the ultimate guest that you could get on the show that you think would just be great for the show, and of course, somehow you're able to pull this ultimate guest on, who would that be for you?
That's a kind of an easy one for me.
I think we might have the same one, actually.
I bet you're not.
Go ahead.
I'm thinking not, but it'd be interesting.
Maybe not.
You want to do 1, 2, 3, go?
Oh,
No, you're not going to say it at the same time. Okay.
Mine would be actually Tim Armstrong from Rancid.
Oh,
Cool.
I think like my one would probably, I would start to think maybe Blake from Jawbreaker, because I'm in love with that band and everything that guy does. But I also think I'd be too shy to talk to him. I've done it before and I was terrible at it. So I don't think I'd want to waste any more minutes of that guy's time. But Tim Armstrong is an amazing artist, like graphic artist. And I love any music he does. I think he has a great message most of the time. And yeah, I love his projects. So I would love to, like, that's his right there. That's him. Like, and I've just been a big Rancid fan since, like, you know, my beginning of being a punk fan. So that would be my guy, which is not Ben's.
Mine's Dave Grohl.
Oh yeah,
that's what I thought he was gonna say too. That's funny.
He would be just like Blake from Jawbreaker. I would be like, I would sound like an idiot. I don't know how to talk to him, but I do love his roots in punk though, and so I think he would be an awesome guest. I agree.
I would just make sure that I was drinking whiskey and Coke with him. Did you ever see? No, I know Eric and I talked about this, but for the other two, Dave Grohl was in the last year or so. Actually, just before or just after, I believe Taylor passed away. He was on Hot Ones.
It was before that, and it didn't come up. I don't think.
Well, it didn't come up because he was interviewed before it happened, but it came out after.
Okay. Yeah, came out. That makes sense. Gotcha.
So he was on there, and he's like, "Look, if we're gonna do this, all this hot crap, you have to drink Crown and Cokes with me." So they're drinking Crown and Cokes, and holy shit, Sean Evans, the host, who is probably, to me right now, as far as interviewers are concerned, the GOAT. Like I love his style and how he does things, and I really try to
like Chuck Pineau and then Sean Evans. Like
he talks a lot less about himself. He cares more about the guest, and that's what I want to emulate.
He doesn't do anything.
Yeah, that's true. But he got drunk on the show, and he was at one point. He's like, "Dave Grohl, I fucking love you, man." He's like, "You're wasted."
I think I literally cried at the end. Like, when they were hugging and stuff, and I was like, I want to hug Dave Grohl.
I know, right? It was really, I honestly, strongly, if you're a Dave Grohl fan, go check out that Hot Ones. It was such a it was so much fun. It really was.
One of my favorite parts is, like, Crown and Coke is a pretty basic mixed drink. Like, it's not generally a big deal. It's my favorite, probably. Like, I love some Crown and Coke. But when he introduced it, he was like, I got this drink, and I was introduced to it by Lemmy of Motorhead, and he talked it up like it was going to be something phenomenal and different. And then he was like, you take some Crown Royal and you take some Coke. And I was like, but it was great. It was a great episode, and I love Dave Grohl and I love Crown and Coke. So,
John, what about you?
Since I've been sitting, I've got 1-1 for comics and music. I think comics, my guy that I love is Eric Powell. I would love to.
Oh, wow.
He's one of my favorite living artists and writers. I think he's just fucking weird as shit, and I love it. I'm there for everything he's got, and I'm super happy to see he's going to be putting a lot more content out through Dark Horse right now. So I'm totally there for that. And I would hope that the weirdness would translate to a fun interview, let's say. So, and then for music, this is a weird one. It's not really it's not punk at all. It's Southern Culture on the Skids are one of my favorite bands of all time, and they just have a fantastic sense of humor. And for that exact reason, I think they'd be a fun interview. The three of them, I think they'd all bring something to the table on just being a bunch of weirdos and having a good time. So I think they'd complement our weirdness just
I think
great.
We've got a fair amount of that too. Like we are punk and comics, but we've talked to people from different genres. Like one of the best conversations I think we've had on this show was probably with Billy Mays.
Yep.
And it was it was a very deep conversation. We had a lot of fun with it, and just a lot of good insight. Like everybody did some amazing stuff, and he's all. I mean, I'm losing the word now. His music is like
post metal.
Yeah, like instrumental, like
purely instrumental. Yeah,
and very like he does it all like live. He's not really like composing things most of the time. Like he's kind of coming like so like it's way different than punk rock and stuff. Well, I think the spirit of punk rock is in about everybody we talk to, but so to say it's way different is not fair. But it's not.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying. I think I think if we were to kind of pin down what Billy's doing that we would call punk, it's creating in real time in front of a group of people and just letting the chips fall where they may, right? Like
being innovative in general.
Yeah, but the thing that sets punk apart is the intensity of the performance, right? Where like you're leaving it all on the stage. And like Billy does that on Twitch. It's crazy that you could pull that off, but he does it.
Yeah.
You know when you smoke just enough weed that you start to feel like you're in Canada, you can say whatever you want. Right? But you smoke just enough that you get to this spot where you start thinking about those really weird questions.
Oh, no.
If that were to happen to me, here's my really weird question for you.
Whoa,
If that were to happen. What is a band that is not considered punk that you as ambassadors to punk would say, hey, you know what? You're officially punk. We're gonna let you in. We're gonna invite you in because we feel like what you're doing.
That's a great fucking question.
That's
a great fucking question.
So if you could invite one band in to the punk fold, what band would you invite in?
One real obvious one that I might have said before this past year was probably Rage Against the Machine, but
dude, get out of my head.
It's hard to say that now, right?
They're kind of right on that borderline too, though. They were always kind of somewhere between metal and punk and hip hop, and it was just a fusion of everything that was good between all of those. So I think they definitely had tinges of punk already in there. So
that's true.
When you are a band that is asked to make a song for a major movie fucking soundtrack, like I don't know, say Godzilla 2000, and then you fucking go on there and make a song that makes fun of that movie, that is punk as shit. And on the song No Shelter, fucking Zach De La Rocha says, Godzilla, pure motherfucking filler. And I'm like, you're attacking the movie that just paid you so much fucking money to be on their album. That's hilarious. Like, the balls. Yeah, I totally agree with that one. 100%.
Well, since Eric took mine, I get to try the new one.
Well, you know what? Then you think about it a minute. We'll try John. Sure. John's had more time to think, I think.
Okay, and I'm going to do...
Uh-oh.
Did he... Okay, I was like, is that me? Is that him?
On. Okay.
You froze up. You better?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
At any rate, he not only was at Newport Folks Festival doing a solo, like kind of political, like one-man band thing. I think he went under I think it was the Night Watchman he went under. So he recorded a couple albums like that. That was really
Tom
good.
Morello.
Yes. And he, I might have gotten cut off at the beginning.
We did miss that, yeah.
Yeah. And he also did solo. It was team up actually with Boots Riley from the Coop, which is a fantastic political hip hop band. And those two were fucking like, he just, laid down that crazy Tom Morello guitar and was just like, and had the other guy like rapping over it, and it was just ridiculous. So both of those highly recommended. So I know I was off on a segue there. What was the original question?
That was pretty good though. The original question was, what band would, or musician, that's fine, would you make punk that isn't normally considered punk?
I'm going to go with, and they're a band, it might be just because I've wanted to see them since before the pandemic, and then pandemic just fucked everything up for touring. And they played 5 minutes fucking away from me twice in a year. And then I was like, I'll see them next year. And then the world shut down. But they're called Charlie Bliss. And it's kind of a poppy alternative band, but they have that weird fucking like lyricism, and they have just fantastic stage presence from everything I've seen in clips. And I would 100% call them punk. So yeah, Charlie Bliss. So
nice.
I don't know if that gave you long enough, Ben, does it?
No. All right, Ben, what about you?
I got two. One's kind of weird and one's a little more mainstream that people would know. And I have my reasons for both.
Okay.
My mainstream one is Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because at its heart, punk rock is talking about the streets, and it's talking about how to be your own fucking person and not let culture and society dictate your identity. And those guys had that shit nailed from day one, and they did it collaboratively. And they always, there's no one in the hip hop scene in the world that could say one bad thing about any of the guys in the Wu-Tang Clan. Those guys are stand-up dudes.
They ain't nothing to fuck with.
That is true. I've heard that. And my other one is a band called...
The words
he sounded like a librarian. I have heard that.
Recent studies
the
have shown.
Wu-Tang Clan are 97% of people say that the Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with.
9 out of 10 don't disagree. Yes.
All right. And what's your other? Your more eclectic band?
Death Grips. So
okay.
They're really, really aggressive hip hop. But like the origin story of the band, to my knowledge, I always take these things with a grain of salt. But the story I was told about the origin of the band is that they were two people that were artists, and they wanted to make music that was just teetering on the border of music, just to see if they could play through an entire set without everybody walking out. The intention was to offend and annoy people, and it was actually really good. And they ended up getting success. And then their music was so aggressive and so like it had violent lyrics and like an intensity to it. Yeah. And so a lot of jocks kind of like jumped on it, and they noticed that their listener base and the people that were showing up to shows were not the kind of people that they necessarily wanted to cater to. So with that knowledge, when they put out their next album, on the front cover of the album, they put a giant penis, like a dude. They took a picture of a dude's dick and then just put that as the front cover, with the idea being these guys are homophobic and like he's very sensitive about like, that kind of shit. So if they want to listen, they want to come out, they want to show their friends this new album, here you go. And it kind of like divided the wheat from the chaff, so to speak.
I can imagine.
A band is kind of another obvious one. Would be Nirvana.
Mm-hmm. But I would say that Kurt would probably think of them as a punk band.
I think that they kind of, I mean, like all the bands that supported them on their tours were generally punk bands.
One, and I would grunge's roots are very much punk based too.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
And to Ben's point about Wu-Tang, I'd say Public Enemy were definitely in that same category for sure. So,
yeah,
100%.
So for me, like obviously I'm not an ambassador for punk, but if I was to have the opportunity to tell punk bands about a band, one thing I would say is, look, there's lots of great punk bands out there, but if you ever get to the chance to listen to the awesome 90s and 2000s Canadian punk band Gob, go and fucking listen.
They're amazing.
They're so awesome. And if you was a punk band,
I thought he was
a
about
punk
to go
band,
off about Sum 41 again. I was like, God damn it, Chuck! I brought you.
I am though, in a different way. Sum 41 is a fucking great band. What I would say though is, I would say, I was actually going to say this even before you said that, is that for me, as a metalhead and a metal ambassador, which I do feel I am, I would say to Sum 41, come on over here. We would love to fucking have you, because those guys are metal as fuck. And if you don't believe that, go listen to, I mean, a lot of their albums, but I would go listen to their tribute to Metallica. Holy shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would say.
Right?
Yeah, they did. They did. Was it For Whom the Bell Tolls? Into Enter Sandman, and then finished with the fucking solo from Master of Puppets. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Nice.
Yeah,
That was killer.
But now we're talking about Sum 41 again.
Yeah, go
I
back
know,
to
because
God.
he didn't want us to.
I wanted to make a joke, and then you started talking about Sum 41. Go back to God.
Dude, Gob's a fucking amazing punk band. I mean, one of their first songs was just, the lyric was basically just, I want to jump in a lake. And it was just a video of them. Do you remember that song?
Yeah,
Ben?
and it was just, yes, the music video was just them repeatedly jumping in a lake, and that's what the song was about.
On bikes. They were driving off of jumps on docks into bikes, and they had like around their bikes they had air tubes so they could grab the bike and pull it back, and they would just do tricks into the fucking lake. It was hilarious. It was so fun, and they ended up like their videos were hilarious, but they were also punk as fuck. Music is great. Like the music totally stands up. And actually, when I'm gonna mention them again, 'cause you're gonna hate it. When Sum 41 wanted another guitarist, they went and recruited Gob's guitarist, and they brought him in to kind of go back more to their punk roots.
Nice.
So yeah. Anyways, guys,
Did you tell that Chuck is the host of a trivia TV show, or YouTube show?
Yeah, you know what, Chuck? You should do something like that. That would be really good for you.
Maybe I'd think about it. I'll give it some thought. But we've done an hour now, and I'm assuming you guys are tired of all my terrible grilling questions. Is there anything else you guys want to say before we bolt?
I was tired of you before this started. So.
Oh, by the way, are we playing Fortnite after this?
I have a hell of a week to get started.
I have a little bit of news. Pretty much got everything booked for the Mute Sounds tour. We're going to be traveling around Ontario in June. I'll give you the dates right now. All three of you and the one person watching right now.
And the millions who listen at home.
That's right. The millions. Nice. Hopefully that'd be great. Yeah, so we're going to be on the road basically from June 19th until beginning of July. We're going to be traveling to Sudbury, London, Guelph, Hamilton, Orillia, show in Toronto. We're playing Ottawa. We're playing actually like a really big venue in Ottawa. It's kind of cool.
What venue?
I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I'll give details later.
The biggest one, though.
But what's that?
The biggest one.
But the biggest one.
Yeah, you know the one.
They've got such a great fucking club scene in Ottawa.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I think we're gonna try and hook something up in Montreal. I don't know if that's doable though. But yeah, so that's happening, and we're starting to write new music too. The last couple jam sessions have been pretty fucking cool. So, yeah, new tunes in the future.
Nice.
That's it for me.
Sweet. John?
I got nothing. I was just happy to hang out with everybody, and you took it pretty easy on us, I'd say, overall.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, the important part is you guys enjoyed it, and hopefully the crowd, the millions at home watching, enjoyed it as well.
Exactly.
Listening.
That too. Or just having us in the background droning away as they do other things. Like, this is the perfect time to do my laundry. Eric, what about you?
Just working with the guys on some plans for a new anthology book, and making new plans for some upcoming blister stuff, and trying to get out to sell it now and then. So
nice.
That's what I'm
All
about.
right. Well, guys, thank you so much for inviting me on the show. I had a really great time. Seriously, you guys are a lot of fun, and you guys are doing some really cool shit. I do enjoy tuning in and checking it out when I can. And yeah, seriously, just keep it up, because I know that you guys have had a lot of really cool guests on. And we in the comic community, especially those of us who do tap into music a little bit, we really appreciate everything you guys have done to kind of show off our projects and stuff. So much love to you guys from all of us out there.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for coming on, Chuck.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for growing us.
I'm very happy to do it. So, for your boys, Eric, Ben, and John, this is Muckspout. My name is Chuck, and I give a fuck. Take care, everybody.
Hey, you made it through an